How many mice can one pair produce in a year? If you guessed 20, you're off. 40, still off. A healthy pair in a warm basement, 60 or more. That's the math nobody does before the first scratch in the wall. The scratch came year 2. New property, old foundation, first cold snap. 3 in the morning, something moving behind the pantry wall. Then droppings on the top shelf. Then a chewed bag of pea seeds I was saving for spring. I knew mouse biology. I didn't know mouse removal. 2 different problems with the same animal. Next 6 weeks, I tried almost everything wrong before I tried anything right. Today, I'll give you the order it should go in. First, second, what to skip. No poison. Garden stays clean, and the rodents actually leave. Biology labs raise mice for a reason. They breed fast, they're docile, they map onto the curriculum. For 1 semester, I kept a breeding pair in the back of my classroom. Glass tank, cedar shavings, water bottle with a metal spout. Students named them, wrote papers on them, watched 12 offspring arrive in 3 weeks. Lab mice have names. Basement mice have appetites. The difference between the two is not the species, it's the setting. A mouse with cedar shavings and a water bottle behaves one way. A mouse with access to your pantry, your seed shelf, your insulation, different animal entirely. Same biology, different incentive structure. Here's what I underestimated. Lab mice stay where the food is. Basement mice expand until something stops them. That's not moral failure on the mouse's part. That's reproductive math compounding in a warm space with unlimited calories. The first mistake I made was treating them like the lab pair. Set 1 trap near the droppings. Waited. Caught one. Thought the problem was solved. 2 weeks later, more droppings, different shelf, different corner, different gap in the floorboards. You don't have one mouse. If you see a mouse, you have a family. If you see a family, you have a colony. If you hear them in the walls, colony with infrastructure. So the question isn't how do I kill the mouse I saw? The question is how do I change the conditions that made 1 mouse turn into 12? Mouse biology, short version. Females reach breeding age at 6 weeks. Gestation is 19 to 21 days. Litter size, 5 to 12 pups. A female can be pregnant again within days of giving birth. Run the calendar forward 12 months, and 1 pair becomes 60+ descendants under good conditions. That's not a horror figure. That's just the reproductive rate written down. Second piece of biology, the teeth. Rodent incisors grow continuously. If a mouse stops chewing, its own teeth grow into its jaw. So chewing is not about hunger. It's about survival maintenance. They chew wood, wire, drywall, lead pipe, hard plastic. Not because they want to eat it. Because they have to wear their teeth down on something. Third piece, the size of the gap they need. A house mouse fits through a gap the width of a pencil. 6 millimeters, 1/4 of an inch. That's the diameter of a dime stood on edge. An adult house mouse weighs under an ounce and collapses its rib cage to squeeze through openings smaller than its skull. Walk your foundation with a flashlight and look for anything pencil wide. That's an entrance. Now, the part that matters for a gardener. Why poison is a bad answer even when it works. Rodenticide kills by internal bleeding over 3 to 7 days. A poisoned mouse gets slow before it dies. A slow mouse gets caught by an owl, a hawk, a barn cat, a neighbor's dog. The poison moves up the food chain. Secondary poisoning is documented by every state wildlife agency I've checked. Owls in particular, your best natural control, die from eating 2 or 3 poisoned mice. The poison also doesn't stay in the mouse. Droppings, urine, decomposition. The active ingredient leaches into whatever soil or substrate the mouse dies on. If that's crawl space next to a raised bed, your garden inherits the chemistry. I taught reproductive biology for decades. I should have done the mouse math sooner. The lesson arrived anyway. So we don't poison, We seal, we deter, we trap mechanically. In that order. Here's what changed my ratio. I stopped trying to kill mice and started trying to lock the house. 1 weekend of sealing work outperformed 6 weeks of trapping. Not because traps don't work, they do, but because traps without exclusion are a subscription service. Walk the perimeter of your foundation. Take a flashlight, a pencil, and a notepad. You're looking for 3 things: gaps wider than the pencil, pipe entries with any visible daylight, and vents without screens. Every one of those is an open door. The standard repair kit costs under $30. Steel wool, a good tube of exterior-grade silicone caulk, a 1/4-inch hardware cloth, and copper mesh for pipe gaps. That's the entire shopping list. Here's how it goes in. For gaps smaller than 2 inches, stuff the hole tight with steel wool, then seal the opening with caulk on top. Mice will not chew through steel wool. Their teeth slip off the strands. The caulk holds the wool in place and keeps moisture out. For pipe entries, copper mesh wrapped around the pipe and pushed into the gap, caulk sealed around the edge. Copper is the only metal mice reliably refuse to chew. Aluminum foil, they'll shred in an afternoon. For vents and larger openings, 1/4-inch hardware cloth, cut with tin snips, stapled or screwed over the opening. 3/8 is too loose. 1/2 inch is a doorway. 1/4 inch is the number. Docknicks on old Soviet plots pack steel wool and wood ash into every foundation crack for decades. Same exclusion logic, different century. Where to look? Foundation seams, dryer vents, plumbing stacks, gas line entries, sill plates, basement window frames, garage door bottoms, corner trim on siding, the gap under the exterior door where the threshold meets the jamb. And, this one surprised me, the hole your air conditioner line set passes through. Any place 2 materials meet is a candidate. Rubber door sweeps degrade every few winters, and a 1/4-inch gap at the bottom of a back door is a standing invitation. One afternoon, maybe 2 if the house is old. Mine took 11 gaps. I counted. Walk your basement tonight. Look at every spot where something enters or exits the foundation. Count the gaps wider than your pencil. The number will surprise you. Exclusion is boring. Exclusion is the whole game. Deterrence and traps come after, not instead. Now the 3 methods that actually move the needle, and the one I wasted $40 on before I learned better. Peppermint oil first, because everybody asks about it. It works, but not the way the Pinterest posts say. Mice don't love the smell. They'll root around it if they have a choice. But peppermint alone won't clear a colony that's already established and has food access. The honest use: cotton balls saturated with peppermint essential oil, tucked into entry points you've already sealed. Refresh every 2 weeks. The oil evaporates. By day 15, the cotton ball is just cotton. I've replaced them every other Saturday during rodent season. Second deterrent: predator scent. Use cat litter, ideally from a cat that hunts outside. Mice have been evolving around cats for 10,000 years. The scent registers as present threat. A sealed container of used litter near suspected entry points works. Fresh litter does not. It has to carry the predator signal. I know, not pretty. It's effective. Third method is the one that earns its keep, the Victor snap trap. About $2 at any hardware store. The yellow plastic pedal, the wooden base, the metal bar. Nothing fancy, nothing electronic. Bait with peanut butter, not cheese. Cheese dries and falls off. Peanut butter holds and smells for days. Dime-sized amount, pressed into the pedal. Place the trap perpendicular to the wall, trigger end against the wall. Mice run walls. They don't cross open floor if they can help it. A trap parallel to the wall gets walked past. A trap perpendicular gets walked into. Set 2 traps 6 inches apart. Mice that dodge the first often stumble into the second. Don't bother with one isolated trap. Keep resetting the same locations for a full week after the last catch. That's when you know the colony is done, not the day after the first catch. What I wasted $40 on: ultrasonic repellers. Pretty lights, zero data. Every controlled study I've read, Kansas State, University of Arizona, shows no measurable effect on established populations. Save the $40. None of this works without the sealing work. Deterrence without exclusion is a subscription. Exclusion plus deterrence plus traps, that's the system. The garden is a different problem. Same animal, different playbook. Here's what I got wrong for 2 seasons before the owl box fixed it. Mice in the house want shelter. Mice in the garden want calories. Different motivation, different method. Raised beds first. Line the bottom of new raised beds with 1/4-inch hardware cloth before you fill them. Same material as the foundation work. Keeps voles and pocket gophers from coming up into root crops from below. Retrofit is painful. Do it at build. Compost bins, closed, rodent-resistant. Not an open pile. Open piles are a mouse cafeteria. Enclosed tumblers or sealed bins with screened vents work. A bin with a small gap underneath is the same as no bin. Keep cooked food, meat scraps, and oily things out of the compost entirely. Those are mouse magnets regardless of bin type. Fruit trees need trunk guards. 18-inch cylinders of 1/4-inch hardware cloth around the base of each young tree, buried an inch or two below the soil line. Mice and voles girdle bark at ground level in winter. I lost 2 young apples to this in year 1. No visible damage above. Full ring of bark gone under the snow. Tree dead by July. Then the real leverage move: owl boxes. One barn owl eats around 1,000 mice a year. Cornell Lab of Ornithology has the data on that. Plans are free online. Wood, a hull, a floor, a roof. I built one in year 2. Mounted it on the east side of the old hickory, 12 feet up, hole facing away from prevailing wind. Didn't see an owl move in for 8 months. Then one did. Didn't see a mouse near the garden beds that summer. Not a miracle, just a predator doing predator work instead of being poisoned out of the system. If you have room for 1 structure, build the owl box. If you have room for 2, build a second one 200 feet away. So, here's your assignment for this week. 3 steps. Do them in order, not at once. 1. Walk your basement tonight with a flashlight. Find every gap wider than a pencil. Mark them with masking tape. You're not fixing anything yet, you're just counting. The number is the map. 2. This weekend, hardware store run. Steel wool, exterior silicone caulk, a roll of 1/4-inch hardware cloth, a tube of copper mesh. $25, maybe $30. Seal 3 of the gaps before Sunday night. Not all of them. 3. Build the habit of finishing what you start with the small ones. 3. Set 2 Victor snap traps along the wall where you've seen droppings. Perpendicular. Peanut butter. 6 inches apart. Check them every morning for a week. That's it. 3 moves. A flashlight. A hardware store receipt under $30. 2 traps under $5. You'll know by the weekend after whether the problem is shrinking. Don't buy the ultrasonic. Don't call the poison guy. Don't wait until the damage is in the wiring. The biology side of this test I can teach. The practical side teaches itself, as long as you actually do the assignment. Lesson accepted.